Good evening, everybody. Hope that you are having a
better day than I am.
They can't even see it. Resolution's too low.
This one drew blood today.
Aw, this little cuddle bug.
Oh, he cuddled with me for 3 hours when I got home from work, but he drew blood before I went to work.
Can't even see it.
Anyway,
details. But yeah. Well, yeah, see? Look at you.
I can see it, but I know where it is.
I can't see it. There's nothing there. All right. Well, anyway, so yeah, hope that you've been had good the last couple of weeks. So if you joined us 2 weeks ago, you know that we did these haunted Halifax, Nova Scotia. No, excuse me. Haunted Nova Scotia.
And now we're diving into Halifax, which is part of Nova Scotia.
I blew it already. I already blew it. I ruined it already. Oh, God.
Drink.
Okay. Yeah, drink.
Drink.
Getting drunk can't make it any worse, right?
You'll make it funnier.
No, make it funnier. It always makes it funnier. I think that's why people really tune in anyways. See
and
if we
cats.
get the cats and to see if we get drunk.
Yeah.
So.
Una's off camera over there, by the way.
Yeah. So, but yeah, and you'll notice we're back up in our spooky abode. We decided for a little bit of a change of scenery tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Because, well, yeah, spookier. We got spooky stuff up here. And yeah, it's more fun, and never mind what you can't see off camera because it's an absolute disaster everywhere that's not on camera in here, which is why we haven't been up in this space for a while.
It's been the catch-all for the travel.
But anyways, we digress. So, yes, 2 weeks ago, Nova Scotia in general. Tonight, Halifax, Nova Scotia. Now, Halifax, largest city in Nova Scotia, and oh my God, does it have a lot of haunting tales. So that's why it's getting its own episode tonight.
Well, it's had a major disaster, which killed an awful lot of people.
Yeah, and we did allude to it a little bit in the episode 2 weeks ago, but
we're actually going to go into detail tonight.
Yeah, it's worthy of its own episode. So that's why we're going to go ahead and we're going to start off with this massive disaster that occurred in Halifax, which did in turn spark a lot of haunting tales in the years thereafter. So we're going to get into the details of the disaster. We're then going to go ahead and share some of those spooky stories with you. And then there are some other ghost stories from Halifax that aren't necessarily related to the disaster that occurred there. But tonight, all going to be Halifax.
And I have Nico on my lap, and he's regretting the choice or the fact that he's allowing me to hit the down button.
Look at your face. Look at your face.
He's like, Mommy, stop playing unfair.
Yep. And hi, Patrick. Glad you could tune in this evening. I sent you a note a little while ago, just a few minutes ago, maybe 15, 20 minutes ago. So
check your inbox.
Check your inbox. If not now, after the show. But yes, we can talk. But yeah, so yes, I love this background too. And this is just kind of tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
If we had more space in here, we'd push the camera back and you could see the rest of it as well.
The plan is eventually to have more space, but we need to remove some furniture first.
Yeah, we got a lot of work to do in here. But anyways, glad that we could get back in here for tonight. And yeah, well, yes. We can brainstorm moving the furniture off the air because that's not what people tuned in for. Now, before we do dive into the episode, just want to give a quick note that, of course, got tours available, 7 nights a week, and also this particular Friday coming up, we have the next iteration of our Ghosts of the John Marshall House tour. So, just a few tickets left for that. If you want to join us, better get them soon because just a handful of tickets left for that one. Yeah. And then that probably will be on hiatus for quite a few months until post-October.
Because they do their own thing in October and we let them do their own thing in October.
Yep, yeah. So, but yeah, it'll be a little while before we have our next one. So if you want to go ahead and catch it, this is definitely the last time this summer to do so. But so Halifax, Nova Scotia. Now, This massive disaster that we're alluding to, a disaster that certainly shaped the history of the city, and it really doesn't even go back that far. I mean, it's over a century ago now, so it does have some time in the past behind it, but it's only 1917 that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So just a little over a century ago is when this occurred. Now, we'll start off by saying there's a lot of different theories about why hauntings happen. Lots of different theories. One of the leading theories is regarding a sudden or violent death, which in turn imprints a person's soul upon the site of the tragedy. And perhaps they are unwilling to accept their passing, or maybe they're just completely unaware of it, but regardless, they seem to stay tied to that location. Which is why, on December 6th of 1917, at 9:04 a.m., the clock on Citadel Hill in Halifax, Nova Scotia, stopped.
No, this has nothing to do with time travel.
No. This marks the time of death for over 1,600 people across the heart of the city. An incident that is today simply known as the Halifax explosion.
So, in a World War I was raging, Halifax Harbor was alive with activity that fateful morning. The Emo, a Belgian relief ship, was passing through Halifax on its way to New York City. The Mont Blanc, a French munition ship, was passing through Halifax on its way back to France. The Emo and the Mont Blanc came face to face in the tight confines of the harbor.
At a distance of about 3/4 of a mile, the pilot of the Mont Blanc signaled for the Emo to alter course, but the pilot of the Emo refused. As the ships closed in, both cut their engines to try and avert a collision. They drew almost parallel to one another when the pilot of the Emu threw their engines into reverse, causing the bows of the ships to brush against one another at about 8:45 a.m. The collision was not severe, but barrels of benzol on the deck of the Mont Blanc toppled over and broke open, sending the volatile substance into the ship's hold. Sparks from the collision ignited the vapor, sending flames up the side of the Mont Blanc.
Captain and crew, fearing an imminent explosion, took to the lifeboats and rowed to the Dartmouth side of the harbor. As they fled, they shouted about the impending explosion, and no one could hear them over the noise of the unfolding catastrophe.
Sorry, cats fighting. The flaming Mont Blanc came to rest by Pier 6 at the north end of Halifax, near the foot of Richmond Street, drawing many curious onlookers, oblivious to the dangerous cargo on board. Other ships responded to the scene, attempting to extinguish the blaze and tow the ship away from the docks.
After burning for about 20 minutes, the Mont Blanc exploded. More than 1,600 people were immediately killed, and the blast rolled across the city and harbor at 3,300 feet per second. Every building within 1.6 miles of the blast was destroyed or badly damaged. The blast briefly exposed the floor of the harbor, and when the water came rushing back in, it generated a tsunami that rose 60 feet above the harbor high water mark. Across the city, lanterns were overturned, stoves were thrown open, setting buildings and wreckage ablaze.
The aftermath was horrific. Nearly 2,000 people would die of the initial blast or injuries that they sustained. Thousands more were maimed and injured. Over 12,000 buildings were badly damaged or reduced to rubble. In the years since, numerous haunting tales have arisen that have been attributed to the Halifax explosion. With the stage set, let us begin.
I'm gonna go check on that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I will. I'm just letting you get up before. All right. So as Chris checks on the cats to make sure no blood has been drawn, because yeah. All right. So St. Paul's Anglican Church in a Grand Parade Square stands the oldest building in Halifax, which is St. Paul's Anglican Church. The church has been standing since 1750. As the city's oldest building, it has been a silent witness to countless historical events, including the Halifax explosion that took place about 3 kilometers to the northwest. Several windows in the church were shattered, including the one on the second floor that left a distinctly human shape. Some legends try to tell that it is the scorched remains of a deacon that was standing at the window at the time of the explosion, but this is laughably false, and any explosion fierce enough to incinerate a man would simply shatter the window. Another legend is that marginally more probable that the explosion sent a decapitated head flying through the window, leaving a distinctly human outline in the broken glass. An outline that remains to this day. The window has been repaired by filling in the shattered pieces rather than replacing the whole pane. Visitors who stand on Argyle Street and look up at the second floor can see a distinctive profile, particularly on overcast days. People refer to it as the explosion window. Window legends aside, it is known that the church was considered the only serviceable house of worship in the city after the explosion. Mass was held there the day after the explosion as the doctors did their best to treat the wounded in the cloisters of the church. In the days that followed, funerals were organized and the church was open to all denominations to conduct their services. Perhaps it was this period of great mourning and medical treatment that subsequently led to the eerie occurrences that have followed in the church. Church staff has reported that the sounds of footsteps in empty halls, hymns being played on the organ when the church is locked, and the occasional glimpse of a figure in clerical robes that vanishes when approached. Whether related to the explosion or not, St. Paul's Anglican Church is one of the most historic haunts in the city of Halifax that plays host to today. Any question? Now, just down the street, we have another location.
Yeah, literally like catty corner to the church. So just steps away stands another Halifax institution of a different sort. The Five Fishermen Restaurant is a famed location to taste Nova Scotian seafood, but the stories go far beyond the food. Over the years, the building has served several purposes, having originally been constructed as a schoolhouse in 1817. By the early 1800s, Halifax was experiencing exciting growth and development, and the need for a school was apparent. The parishioners of St. Paul's took on that responsibility, opening the school next door. Its close proximity enabled the church to keep an eye on the developing minds of future Haligonians. High on the school's agenda was an emphasis on religious obligations and the education of the poor. It would become the first school in Canada to offer a free education. It is for this reason that the building has the distinction of being the first national school and is a protected heritage site. Eventually, the building was unable to facilitate the growing needs of so many young minds, so Dalhousie College across the street took over the responsibility. The building then changed hands to its new proprietor, Anna Leonowitz. Her purpose was to start up an art school. Thus, the Halifax Victorian School of Art was born. Anna was a verbose and overbearing character, well known not just in Halifax, but also in other places in the world. Before coming to Halifax, Anna was the governess to the children of the King of Siam.
Yes.
You see where this is going? An experience that she would later write a book called Anna and the King of Siam. The book will be translated into a Broadway musical, an Academy Award-winning movie, and many other versions of The King and I. Eventually, the art school moved to a new location and became the Nova Scotia College of Art and Design.
So that's your theater tip for tonight.
Yep. Little hot note there.
Yep.
So.
I had to include it.
Yeah, of course you did. I mean, it was a key part of this building's history.
Yeah.
Fascinating. So it wasn't long after Anna left the building that it was taken over by the Snow family. Snow and Sons would enjoy a bustling business running a mortuary. John Snow and Company Funeral Home would play a significant part in two of the world's greatest disasters. First, in April of 1912, when the Titanic went down off the coast of Newfoundland, rescue operations took place out of the nearest mainland port, Halifax. Some of the wealthier victims, including John Jacob Astor IV, the wealthiest man on the ship, and Charles M. Hayes, the president of Grand Trunk Railway, were brought to Snow's funeral home so appropriate arrangements could be made. In the aftermath of the Halifax explosion, Snow's funeral home, like every funeral home in the city, played its role in dealing with the tragedy. For weeks after the explosion, the funeral home hosted as many as 30 to 40 funerals a day, and coffins were stacked up on top of each other and lined the streets outside the building. After Snow's funeral home, the Argyle Street building served many other uses over the years, including use as a warehouse, but in 1975 it opened its doors as the Five Fishermen. For half a century, it has been known for its great seafood, friendly staff, and its rich history. It is because of this history that the building has gained a haunting legacy, and if you ask anyone who has worked there, and they're sure to have a story or two. The restaurant doesn't shy away from this, as they acknowledge some of the more notable tales on their website. Of course, we are going to share some of these tales with you now.
Yep. Many of the staff of the Five Fishermen restaurant are accustomed to odd occurrences, so they don't bat an eye if a glass flies off of a shelf, or when cutlery abruptly slices off a table and clatters to the floor. There are many sinks in this building, and with so many sinks come many taps. Taps that like to turn themselves on and off with no mortal assistance. One server related a story about being there late at night, and he was sure he was the only one left in the dining room. As he was checking the lights near the salad bar, he heard someone go through the swinging doors leading down to the kitchen. He turned quickly enough to see the door swing shut, but on further inspection he could find no other human presence. Another waitress tells of nearing the grand stairwell that leads up to the maitre d' stand. She sees a gray apparition, a fog-like mass, moving down the staircase. For her part, she chose not to linger. Many of the staff members can relate to you the feelings of passing through cold air pockets on the warmest of nights, or the sensation of what feels like to have had a spirit move through you. Nor is it uncommon to hear voices, especially your name being whispered or even called out when there's no one else around. In the middle of a busy night, one server was using a credit card machine when he felt a tap on his shoulder. Trying to finish what he was doing before turning to respond to the person, he felt a second tap, and he turned around. What? Sorry, Vincent.
Okay.
He didn't like that tone. And, of course, there was nobody there. Behind the salad bar, the Five Fishermen has the captain's quarters, a private dining room. And one night, after all the customers had left, a waiter passed the captain's quarters and heard a man and a woman arguing. When he went to investigate the commotion, the voices stopped. The captain's quarters was empty. Well, let's just say he turned around. Another occasion, a server, the last in the building, was locking the doors and turning out the lights. When she approached the captain's quarters, she noticed someone enter. Relieved that she had not locked a customer in the building for the night, she entered the captain's quarters and found the room empty. There's no other way to exit the captain's quarters.
On one sunny summer afternoon, a server was tasked with setting up the salad bar. He arrived at 3 in the afternoon. The salad bar items were brought from the floor above on 4 large trays through the swinging doors around the bar to the salad bar area. On one of his passes, he heard a loud crash, but because his hands were full, he could do nothing about it. Upon returning for the next load, he decided to investigate the noise that he had heard. When he looked around the corner of the bar, he found several pieces of an ashtray on the floor. He bent down to retrieve the pieces, and when he stood up, he was looking directly into a mirror. In the mirror, he could see the reflection of an old man walking away from him down the aisle. He was tall, with long gray hair, and was wearing a long black coat that seemed to be from another time. Startled, for he was sure he was the only person in the restaurant, he turned to see who this could be, but there was no one there. When he turned back to the mirror, the image had disappeared. Thinking his eyes were playing tricks on him, the brave young fellow shrugged and returned to his duties. Several years later, the assistant manager was having a conversation with the customer on the phone at the station across from the salad bar. Again, it was 3 in the afternoon, and he was the only one in the dining room. At one point, he saw an elderly man standing on the landing below. "Excuse me, sir, I'll be right with you." After he finished his conversation, he went to see how he could help the gentleman, but he couldn't find him anywhere. He wasn't on the landing, and he wasn't in the foyer below. He checked the doors, and they were locked, so there was no way anyone could get in. Later that evening, he described this odd experience to some of his fellow staff members, one of whom was the same young man who was setting up the salad bar several years before. Upon comparing notes, it quickly became clear that they encountered the same apparition. Most of these occurrences seem to happen before the restaurant opens or after it closes when there are a few people around, but not always. In the middle of a busy night, a hostess was in the process of showing a young couple to their table when she stopped at the salad bar to explain its offerings. Suddenly, she felt a harsh brush against the side of her face, but when she glanced around, she could detect no cause for it. She finished sitting the couple, and upon returning to the hostess stand, the maitre d' asked, "What happened to your face?" There was a red handprint on her cheek, as if she had been slapped, though if you ask her, it was nothing so violent. In fact, the antics that have occurred at the Five Fishermen restaurant seem to be just that. Mischievous, maybe, unable to ignore, but in the end, harmless. Sounds a fun place to check out.
I definitely want to check it out. We won't be able to do it this next trip, but another time. I mean, we might be able to get in there for drinks.
Yeah, we're not going to have a meal there. Yeah. No time for a meal, but...
We can get in for a cocktail real quick.
Yeah, it depends on the time.
Yeah.
Depends on the time.
Yeah, their menu looks amazing. Questions, comments, concerns?
Nico better watch his deck. One of these days, Una is going to kick his butt. Here's the funny thing. Nico is a bully. Nico is a chronic agitator. Now, Una is the butt of most of his harassment, but he does regularly harass his brother and occasionally even goes after Lulu.
Nico gets his butt handed to him every single time.
All the time.
Every time.
Nico has several major bald spots on his body from where he picked a fight and lost and got a tuft of his hair ripped out.
And we're talking quarter-sized tufts.
So...
he has not learned.
He does not learn. He, yeah.
Yeah.
He should be embarrassed, but
he doesn't have enough brain cells for that.
Exactly.
Nico very much is an orange cat in a black cat's costume. I'm just saying.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Very much is that. We love him dearly, but he doesn't learn.
Yeah. But yes, that building has had quite the history to it.
Oh, yeah.
Schoolhouse, art college, mortuary, restaurant, with some warehouse time thrown in there as well. All kinds of stuff going on there.
Oh, yeah. I really want to know who the gray-haired man is. Is he from this art school or is he from the mortuary? Because that's what I'm feeling it would be.
I personally am leaning towards mortuary era, but hard to say.
Yeah, that's what I would lean towards too. All right, so a little further to the south, about 4 kilometers from the site of the explosion, a large hospital complex dominates several blocks of the city, where a tale originates from the oldest part of the complex on Tower Road. This is the Victorian General Hospital. The hospital was built in 1859, but it had a troubled beginning. It wasn't until 1867 that the doors actually opened for patients, and in the years since, it grew to match the needs of the community. The hospital was severely damaged by the Halifax explosion, and it killed 23 staff members and patients at the facility. Still, the surviving staff members continued to treat the wounded despite the destruction and their own injuries. It seems that at least one victim of the explosion continued to treat patients at the facility, even in death. With the halls of the hospital wanders the Grey Nun. The apparition observed by many nurses through the years, she is thought to have come to work in the hospital during World War I, and since her untimely death, she is said to comfort and guide the dying during their final minutes. While administering to her charge, the soft gray light and the faint smell of incense accompanies her. Yeah, are we commenting on the Orange Cat Club?
Yeah. As I we love all of our kitties, even if they are dumb as a rock.
And he is. And he is.
Oh.
Aren't you, buddy? We love you, and you've got sissy fur in your paw, don't you?
Again.
Right.
So, where were we?
We're on the Citadel.
Ah, okay.
A place we are going to go visit.
Yes, we will get to there. We will get there. Next turn our attention to one of Halifax's historic highlights, the Halifax Citadel National Historic Site. From its founding in 1749 to the late 19th century, Halifax was one of 4 principal overseas naval stations in the British Empire. Military authorities built a system of coastal fortifications to defend the harbor and its approaches. The mighty Citadel acted as command post and warded off land-based attacks. The present-day Citadel was completed in 1856 and is the fourth in a series of forts to occupy the hill overlooking the city. At the height of its influence in the mid-Victorian era, the Citadel was the headquarters of one of the Halifax garrison's 2 infantry regiments. British units were generally posted to Halifax for a 2-year period. 2 of these units were the 78th Highland Regiment of Foot and the 3rd Brigade Royal Artillery. To locals, there is little debate that Citadel Hill has been inhabited by numerous spirits of years past, at least 36 by one count. So let's go ahead and have a deeper look into its haunting legacy. A dramatic tale from 1782 involves an encounter that 2 young officers had while patrolling the grounds. On this patrol, they encountered a tall figure wearing torn hunting clothes, his face gaunt and pale in the moonlight. One officer was particularly disturbed by the sight, as the figure bore a striking resemblance to his brother. Days later, a letter arrived confirming his worst fears. His brother had died in a hunting accident at the exact time they saw the apparition. Another tale from the heart of the Citadel speaks to the haunting of the stone. Haunting of the stone 3-story Cavalier building. On November 14th, 1900, a young woman named Cassie Allen waited at the altar in a nearby church for her beloved groom to arrive, a soldier from the Citadel. The sergeant was so long in arriving, however, that she eventually sat down, growing more anxious by the minute. At the clip-clop sound of horses' hooves, she jumped up in expectation as a carriage pulled up to the church entrance. The carriage was empty. The driver stepped down and took his hat into his hands, meeting Cassie's eyes with a pained look of sympathy. He explained that her groom had been found dead that morning in the Citadel. Cassie's lover had taken his own life when it came to light that he was already married to a woman living in an asylum in Bermuda. Cassie's hysterical wails of grief and dismay echoed throughout the church. She refused to believe what had happened. Years passed, and the church was eventually torn down. The chair Cassie had waited in was donated to the Cavalier building in the Citadel. Several decades after Cassie's death in the 1950s, an employee often sat in that very chair in the Cavalier, greeting visitors as they entered the building. One day, a woman dressed in the 19th century's grayish-white dress stepped through the door, and the scent of roses filled the hallway. The employee stood up to greet her, blinking, but when his eyes opened, the hallway was empty. Throughout his employment, he glimpsed her several more times, dressed the same, but she always vanished right before he could speak.
Other employees saw her too. One night, a security guard on the grounds looked up to see a woman in gray staring vacantly out of a 3rd-floor window. Another night, a guard stationed at the fort with a viewing overlooking the 2nd-floor balcony watched as a woman in a long white dress moved along the veranda before turning at the corner and disappearing around the side of the building. It's believed that this gray lady of the Cavalier is indeed Cassie Allen, searching in endless grief for her long-lost love. Perhaps one of the most chilling apparitions at the Citadel is the one-armed sergeant, who met his fate in a mysterious drowning. During a fire in the barracks, the unfortunate soldier somehow ended up in a well under suspicious circumstances. People report seeing his ghostly figure standing rigidly at attention beside the well where he died, as if still maintaining his eternal watch. The well itself lies hidden away in the north end of the inner Citadel, sealed behind a locked door in casement 18. Modern-day security guards have captured strange anomalies on their cameras throughout the Citadel, orbs of light floating through solid walls, shadowy figures that disappear when approached, and inexplicable cold spots that set off motion detectors. The fort's prison cells are particularly active, with visitors reporting the sound of chains dragging across the stone floors and desperate whispers in the darkness. A soldier in uniform walking into one of the rooms in the old prison area, only to simply vanish. A man in a red cloak, voices, unexplained noises, and sudden gusts of wind in closed-off rooms, and an eerie feeling of being watched. There have been numerous reports of unexplained happenings and ghostly apparitions and appearances at the Halifax Citadel. Perhaps not surprising for a historic fortress that guarded prisoners and kept watch over the city for so long. Some say the Halifax Citadel is Canada's most haunted historic site. I say it definitely gives up room for that.
Quite possibly, yes. So, do you have a question from Angel?
Yay, Angel's watching.
Hi, Angel.
I was hoping she would.
Yeah. So, question about the not a green, the gray nun.
The gray nun.
Not a green light. It is like a grayish light. So think like a really cold light.
A little foggy.
Yeah. Kind of dim blue.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we're talking about. It's kind of hard to envision a grayish light, but that's really kind of what it is.
It'd have a purplish blue kind of vibe for it.
Yeah, and think of like that, almost like shining through a fog too.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we're envisioning here with this grayish light. But yeah, it is kind of an unusual one. It's I don't think I've heard of a light like that before.
No.
I've heard of, oftentimes there's a pinprick light that's very bright.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard of a variety of colors too.
But the gray one is new for us.
Yeah, kind of a unique one. So, fascinating one. That does seem, at least to us, in everything that we've looked at over the years, fairly unique to the story of the Grey Nun there.
And it might just be her clothing trying to manifest if she was like a nursing nun, because they would have had gray uniforms.
Yeah.
With the white aprons.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But yeah, good question.
Yeah. So this next spot, Chris and I actually have a ghost tour booked.
Yeah, so we're going to be visiting here. So this is now located on the Lower Water Street in Halifax's historic waterfront district. Alexander Keith's Brewery continues its centuries-old tradition of brewing fine ales. But according to many who work there, the brewery's founder never left. Alexander Keith was born October 5th, 1795 in Halkirk, Scotland, which, worth mentioning, there is quite a strong Scottish heritage in this vicinity.
This area was really much known as like New Scotland, because so many people moved into this area. Alexander Graham Bell moved into this area. Yeah,
that was in the Sydney area. But yeah, Nova Scotia.
Nova Scotia was like New Scotland.
Yeah.
Like Maine was New Ireland.
Yeah. So, and just to mark that, I am actually drinking some scotch tonight. I know it's not from Nova Scotia, but it does speak.
It's Scotch.
It's Scotch. It speaks to the Scottish heritage that is very strong in that region. Anyways, I digress. Born in Halkirk, Scotland, and he emigrated from Scotland to Nova Scotia in 1817 and founded a brewery bearing his name in 1820. He was elected mayor of Halifax in 1843 and was re-elected in 1853. By 1863, Alexander Keith's Brewery was producing over 100,000 liters of ale a year, which by today's standards, not a whole heck of a lot, but for like a mom and pop operation back in that era,
that's a lot.
That's a fair bit of ale that we're talking about. Now, Alexander passed away on December 14th, 1873, at the age of 78. However, he still seems to maintain a spectral supervision of his beloved business. Staff members working late shifts have encountered Keith's ghost making his rounds through the brewery. He appears as a solid figure dressed in Victorian-era clothing, checking fermentation tanks and inspecting equipment before disappearing through solid walls. Some say he's particularly active when changes are made to his original recipes, as if ensuring his high standards are maintained.
I mean, I can understand that.
Yeah, as you do.
You worked hard for something.
Yeah. The brewery houses darker presences as well. Workers have reported seeing a man's face appear in mirrors throughout the building, his expression twisted in anguish. Local historians have connected these sightings to a violent death that occurred on the property in the 1800s, though the details are kind of vague. There is also a young boy and a spirit of a man covered in blood who have been seen. Some believe that these spirits may be connected to the Halifax explosion that took place only about 4 kilometers away. The most active area appears to be the cellar, where footsteps sometimes echo through empty corridors and the temperature drops dramatically without explanation. During brewery tours, visitors have recaptured mysterious orbs in photographs and experienced sudden battery drains in their electronic devices. An old sailor named Sam, or Sandy, is seen at the end of the basement bar with a glass of beer in his hands. He enjoys the live music that is played on a regular basis. Mr. Keith has also been known to turn on and off lights or flicker them in the basement to let the staff know he is present. Last year, a young man was alone in the basement while doing some cleaning. He was whistling to himself while he worked, and when he heard someone or something whistling back. Thinking that someone must be playing a trick on him, he looked up and caught a flash of a woman in green and purple, with her hair piled loosely on her head. When he looked again, she had disappeared. While some of the spirits at Alexander Keith's remain a mystery, that makes their presence no less chilling for those that cross paths with them today.
Sorry, I'm fighting with my screen. There we go.
Need to take this?
No, okay.
Okay.
I'm fixing that typo in my script anyway.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I did a shoddy edit.
You were busy this week. All right, so
Busy, that's a very generous assessment.
tucked away in the heart of modern Halifax is the old burying ground established in 1749. It was the same year that Halifax itself was established. Now, the old burying ground holds the remains of approximately 12,000 people, from prominent citizens and military heroes to anonymous victims of disease and poverty. One of the haunted Halifax's darkest periods during the devastating typhoid epidemic in 1749 to 1750. More than 1,000 early settlers perished in the single winter. This forced the cemetery to expand from its original 1-acre plot to over 2 acres. Grave diggers worked tirelessly through the frozen ground to accommodate the mounting casualties. Today, visitors report a number of numerous supernatural encounters among the weathered headstones. Local tour guide Andy Smith tells of a chilling incident when he and his entire tour group witnessed a mysterious male figure materialize approximately 30 feet ahead of them, cross their path, and vanish into the darkness. Such apparitions are commonly reported near the graveyard, especially during twilight hours. Another frequently witnessed phenomenon involves a young woman in period dress. Locals say she's the phantom of Elizabeth Crowley, who died in childbirth in 1751. Visitors describe seeing her walking between the gravestones, sometimes accompanied by the sound of a crying infant. The groundskeepers have reported finding fresh flowers on her grave on some mornings, despite the cemetery being locked at night. British military officers buried here after the falling in various conflicts are said to maintain their duty even in death. At night, the security patrols have reported hearing military drums and seeing shadowy figures standing at attention near the military headstones. During full moon, some claim to hear phantom sounds of military commands being shouted across the grounds. Despite its macabre history, the old burying ground serves as a protected National Historical Site, offering visitors a unique glimpse into the haunted Halifax colonial past. The military's ornate headstones and monuments tell stories of the city's founding families, tragic losses, and the harsh realities of 18th century maritime life.
Yep.
I definitely want to go and get pictures of this place if we can.
Absolutely. I don't think it's too far from where we'll be walking around.
No.
So, all right. So now we have kind of a little bit of a rapid fire. We're going to pop into a few places real quick with some really brief stories. Mm-hmm. So first, we got the Stoddard house. It's only a stone's throw away from the old burying ground and may be just as haunted. A registered historic landmark, this stone and brick building was constructed in 1828 and is among the oldest on the street. Stoddard House is now the home of the Nova Scotia Association of Architects, as it should be. It's a beautiful old house. Now, rumor has it that a young woman and her baby, who can be heard crying from the second floor, haunt this building after a botched surgery. Records from the Nova Scotia Archives say 5 people killed in the 1917 Halifax explosion were registered as occupants of the house. The list included 22-year-old Edna Shaw and 3-year-old Mary Agnes Shaw. So if the botched surgery story is a stretch, there may still be some historic evidence to back up the haunting tale.
Then we have the Henry House. Unlike many of haunted Halifax's spooky location, the Henry House doesn't have a history of tragedy. Yet this popular pub, which began as a private home before becoming a residence for retired sailors, has developed its own unique collection of ghostly residents. The most playful spirit seems to be that of a former kitchen maid. Staff opening the pub in the morning often find chairs rearranged and clean glasses lined up on the bar, despite being properly stored the night before. More mysteriously, the beer taps occasionally spring to life on their own, pouring perfect pints into empty glasses while bewildered bartenders watch.
They should make a mint off that.
They really should.
Ghosts pouring pints.
I mean, at least set up a camera.
Seriously, I'm all for that.
I would totally tip you online if you could show me that happening in real time. Seriously. Not just stars. I would send you money to pay for one of those pints and give it to the ghost because you should.
As you do.
Yes. All right. The ghost of a young girl who died from whooping cough in the late 1800s haunts the house. She was the daughter of a Navy League man, and her family's photograph once hung near the entrance. Customers, especially those with children, report seeing a small figure. I am so got PTSD from you.
Not graceful, dude.
In a white dress, playing on the stairs or peering around the corners. Someone even heard a child's cough echoing through the building late at night. The third floor, once used as living quarters, is particularly active. Staff members report feeling watched while closing up, and the sound of footsteps often follows them down the stairs. One manager working late on inventory heard what sounded like a party in full swing upstairs, complete with laughter, clinking glasses, and old-fashioned music. When she investigated, of course, she only found empty rooms and silence. Because nobody can join the ghost party.
It's a shame. I'd party with the ghosts.
I would too.
All right. Next up, we are moving to the Waverley Inn. It's one of Halifax's most fascinating heritage properties, and according to many, one of its most haunted. Built in 1876 during Halifax's Victorian Golden Age, the inn once hosted such notable figures as Oscar Wilde. The inn's ghostly reputation centers around several persistent spirits, most famously Isabel. She's believed to be a former owner from the early 1900s. Guests used to report encounters with her ethereal presence, describing the rustle of period-appropriate skirts along the corridors and the lingering scent of rose perfume, a fragrance popular amongst Victorian ladies. Staff members documented numerous instances of doors opening and closing on their own, particularly on the upper floors where Isabel is said to maintain a watchful eye over her beloved property. Perhaps the most heart-wrenching tale involves young Edward, a child who reportedly died of scarlet fever in one of the upper rooms in 1917. Modern-day visitors, especially those staying in rooms 204 and 205, often report hearing children's laughter late at night and finding their belongings mysteriously rearranged. Some guests awaken to find small handprints on mirrors in their rooms. The inn's basement, which once housed the servant quarters, has its own share of supernatural activity. Staff members refuse to go down alone after dark, citing unexplained cold spots and the distinct sound of dishes clattering despite the kitchen being upstairs. Meanwhile, security cameras captured orbs of light moving around in the basement, and something would trigger motion sensors without explanation.
Dude, please don't disrupt the Facebook Live.
Vince is just trying to,
Rude.
Don't bite me.
All right.
Vincent's being special.
Vincent's moody today.
He's very moody.
He said he drew blood earlier.
Yeah. And Patrick shares a birthday with Oscar Wilde. He's definitely quite the character.
He is.
Yes.
All right, next we're going to move to the Neptune Theater.
Sorry, but Beverly also loves party ghosts. Gotta love party ghosts.
No, right. As I said, I would party with them.
Yeah.
All right, the Neptune Theater has been entertaining audiences in Halifax since the early 1900s, but some of its most dramatic performances seem to occur after the audience has gone home. The historic playhouse on Argyle Street harbors spirits who appear to have a flair for the theatrical. All right, dude, you need to get off your father's lap.
Yep, we're fine. Keep going.
Okay. Seamstresses in the costume department have adapted to their supernatural coworker, learning to work around him. They tell stories of thread cones flying across the room as if thrown by invisible hands, and a mysterious male figure who appears in the mirrors seemingly to critique their work. One seamstress described seeing a man in early 20th century clothing examining a costume she was working on. When she looked up again, both the man and the costume had vanished, only to reappear back on its hanger, with the subtle alterations being made to the design.
Super helpful ghost.
I mean, hey, if you want to help with the workload, go for it, buddy. The theater's ghost light, traditionally left burning when the stage is dark, has shown on some of the most spectacular supernatural performances. One night, there we go, I can read. An actor was staying behind to clean the stage and reported an incredible sight. Under the ghost light's glow, he watched as an ethereal performance unfolded. Transparent figures in period costumes moved across the stage, acting out scenes to an audience of shadows that filled the empty seats. The spectral show continued until he switched on the main lights, causing the phantoms to fade away. Dude, you watched the entire performance. Give them their time on stage. That's all I'm saying. A backstage area is particularly active. Props regularly go missing, only to turn up in impossible places. Actors have reported on hearing their names whispered in empty dressing rooms, and the sound of applause sometimes echoes through the theater long after the last audience member has left. One of the most chilling encounters involved a stage manager who was locking up after a performance of Macbeth, the play traditionally believed to be cursed in theatrical circles. As she walked across the stage, she felt a sudden cold spot and heard a voice clearly say, "Watch the light." Moments later, a heavy stage light crashed down exactly where she would have been walking. Good ghost.
We do love our helpful ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
No squishing stage hands.
No, stage managers are very useful. We don't squish them.
You have a particularly soft spot for them.
I am a former stage manager. We don't squish me.
All right.
Just saying.
All right. So, moving along, at the corner of Oxford and South Streets, Shirreff Hall is the oldest residence of
Dalhousie
University. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dating to 1923, the building has seen thousands of students come and go. Operating as an exclusively female residence until 2005, the now co-ed residence welcomes 440 students each academic year. Many people claim to have witnessed inexplicable things while living there. In 2013, 18-year-old Brittany Wilson moved into Shirreff Hall. Her stay started off smoothly, but soon little things started to happen, she says. Papers would suddenly fall from her desk to the floor, untouched. Lights would often flicker by themselves. One evening, Wilson and a friend had set their alarms to go off at the same time so they could wake up a friend for his birthday. They wanted to surprise him by jumping into his bed at the exact moment he was born. However, when they stepped into the stairwell at 4 a.m., they were greeted by the sound of loud organ music. This was unsettling not only for the bizarreness of the event, but also because Shirreff did not have an organ and they couldn't locate the source of the music. Wilson described the organ music as surround sound loud and said it was only playing in the stairwell. Shirreff Hall has also been long haunted by a young woman scorned and heartbroken, forever cursed to creep the building's corridors. She is known as Penelope, and most of the happenings associated with her revolve around strange sounds, sudden temperature changes, things that turn on or off without any apparent human intervention, but some stories go further, including possible sightings of the woman hovering through Shirreff's darker corners. One Shirreff resident that preferred to stay anonymous reported waking up at about 2:30 a.m. to a girl standing in the corner of her room, covering her face as if she was crying. To add to the creepiness, that corner was shared with her filing cabinet. The girl quickly disappeared, leaving the shaken student to question if she was even there in the first place. That said, the student noticed other strange happenings in her time living in the building as well, like a certain cabinet drawer that opens and closes on its own. So who is Penelope? The story of Shirreff Hall and its ghost are both founded in the gender politics of the early 20th century. The residence was built in the early 1920s for the growing population of female students, many of whom struggled to find housing from local landlords that preferred to rent to male tenants. And Penelope's tale of love, betrayal, heartbreak, and shame is wrapped up in the sexist attitudes of the era. In the most popular version of the story, Penelope is a maid or caretaker who lives in a suite of servants' quarters in what is known as the annex space of the building, though in some versions she's a student. It's assumed her story happened soon after the building was opened. She falls madly in love with a man, possibly a professor, and ends up pregnant. Her lover abandons her, refusing to help or acknowledge her plight. Despondent and unwilling to face the persecution and scorn directed at women who carry children out of wedlock in her era, she makes her way to the fourth-floor tower of the residence, rope in hand, and hangs herself from the rafters. Penelope ends her life, but in doing so, her tenure as Sheriff's first and only permanent resident. As generations of students come and go, Penelope remains. Some question the validity of the tale, noting a lack of concrete proof that Penelope existed. Still, a sordid tale like this may have been swept under the rug if it threatened the reputation of the institution or one of its respected staff members. It was not until the modern era that Penelope's story really gained traction. The ghost doesn't get mentioned in the Dalhousie Gazette until the mid-1990s, and you will only find the rare newspaper clippings about a Shirreff Hall ghost, usually published around Halloween time. Instead, Penelope's story has survived mostly through oral tradition, spoken in whispers between upper classmates and first years year after year. Steve Vernon, a Halifax-based author and storyteller who has written dozens of fiction and non-fiction books about local ghosts, including 2009's Halifax Haunts, which features Penelope, first heard tales of the Shirreff Hall haunting when he arrived in the city as a student in the 1970s. Vernon recalls, back when the story was being told and retold, everybody who went to Dalhousie or King's, sooner or later you'd hear somebody talking about it. He says the appeal of stories like Penelope's, how they become folklore, is that they exist in a gray boundary between fact and fiction that allows them to be retold in different ways. Vernon has even written his own telling of the Penelope tale in his 2016 short story, Old Spice Love Knot, in which a modern student learns about the Shirreff Hall ghost on her first day on campus and soon finds herself in eerily similar circumstances. Yet the story's conclusion suggests Penelope isn't someone to be afraid of.
Get down.
Sorry.
Cats.
Vernon says, I've always felt that ghosts aren't inherently dangerous. They shouldn't really be that scary to us. They're spirits with unfinished business who hang around to finish something up. Whatever business Penelope may be trying to finish, the way she's gone about it has typically amounted to little more than polite mischief.
Reports have been documented over the years that include a sweep of cold air like a physical presence, feeling being watched, organ sounds without a source, footprints that seem to walk toward the wall and then disappeared. While full-blown sightings are rare, they typically involve a woman wearing a blue dress known to appear and disappear suddenly. By sharing tales like Penelope's, the students get to contribute to the folklore and the history of the university with a story that has resonated for decades. After all, it mostly sounds like Penelope just wants to be noticed, something most undergrads can relate to. And considering how she was treated, can you really blame her?
Yeah. I don't know what they're putting in the cat food, but
they're actually not wanting to eat their cat food lately, so we're having all sorts of moods right now.
All kinds of moods. They're hangry, but it's not because we haven't been feeding them, it's because
they don't want to eat what they normally eat.
We digress.
So picky.
We digress. All right, one last stop for this evening. So if you follow now this is kind of a little bit on the outskirts, if you will.
It's a water story.
It's a water story.
Because we're on a port.
Yeah. So if you follow the narrow strait that flows through the heart of Halifax inland, you will reach Bedford Basin, just north of the city. At the turn of the century, or so the story goes, a dory full of fishermen got lost in the fog near Bedford Basin, and when their boat tipped, they drowned. Over the years, those that stand along the shore of the basin on foggy nights have reported hearing the sound of a dory being rowed into shore, but no boat is ever seen. This is also the site of one of the earliest haunted ship stories around Halifax Harbor. In the middle of Bedford Basin, there are two islands connected by a small peninsula when the tide is out. When the tide is in, one can't walk between the two islands. The story starts with a group of friends camped out on the Big Island. At the time, they were all between the ages of 12 and 14 and had heard many tales about the haunted ship. They were a bit scared, but they had their dog with them for comfort, company, and protection. They figured that if any spirits would try to approach them, that the dog would bark to let them know. This so just rings of Gen X. Oh, you and your friends, 12 to 14 years old, you just want to go camp out on an island in the middle of the basin?
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally my generation.
Yeah, that's certainly not something that would happen today.
Will be fine.
Yeah, not something that would fly today. But hey, you go back to the 70s or something, sure, why not? Anyways, I digress. The first night was all well, but the next day, as they were walking along the shoreline, one of them stepped in what seemed to be quicksand. He started yelling to his friends, but he had a bit of a reputation as a prankster, so they really didn't pay that much attention to him at first. The yelling persisted, and eventually his friends turned back to find their friend looking a little shorter than normal. Sure enough, he was telling the truth for once and was sinking into the muck. They looked for a way to help without getting sucked in themselves and found a large board that had washed up on shore. After some hard tugging, they finally got him out. He had sunk up to his knees, and they were really surprised as they had explored the island many times and had never found quicksand before. They started to worry that it was a bad omen of things to come. That night, they built their campfire and sat down to eat some fish that they had caught. It was getting dark, and with the darkness, it seemed to be getting foggy. Generally speaking, fog in Nova Scotia is nothing to be concerned about, as it is foggy there quite a bit in the summer. They sat around the fire talking about the quicksand, now getting a laugh out of it since the danger had passed. After the fire burned down, they went into the tent to settle down for the night when the dog started to growl. They thought that perhaps a pheasant or some other kind of bird might have been rustling in the bushes, and that was what the dog heard. But as the moments passed, the dog didn't stop growling. Hesitantly, the friends walked outside the tent. It was pitch dark, and they could hardly see, as not only was it dark, but it was very foggy as well. The dog started walking towards the shoreline and growling all the more. They were scared stiff, but needed to find out what the dog was growling at. Nearing the shoreline, they too started to hear noise. It sounded like chains and whips. It was also the sound of oars hitting the water. Then they saw it. It was a large sailing ship with oars sticking out the side. It wasn't visible for long, but long enough to catch a glimpse at it. The friends nearly died from the shock they felt that day, but the sighting of the ghost ship would stick with them forever after. They didn't sleep at all that night, and the very next day, as soon as the sun was up, they rode home, never to camp on the island again.
So when do we go camping on the island?
We're not going camping on the island. Knowing our luck, we would get stuck in a deluge like what we experienced the last time we went to... Where were we?
Point Lookout.
Point Lookout. Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to experience that again.
Yeah. That was a bad night.
It was. And even then, we had some place we could go. We could hop in the car or something if it got really bad. On an island, you're kind of screwed. I'm not doing that. Not doing that. But yeah. But yes, yikes.
Glamping only for Chris anymore.
Huh?
Glamping only for Chris anymore.
I am not ashamed to say as much. Because that was not a pleasant night.
So you're saying I need to give our attempt to rating?
Sure, go for it. Oh, darn.
Stuff comes out of the attic.
Patrick might want to go camping on the island. Please let us know how it is.
Take a dog.
I will eagerly anticipate your report.
Pictures. Take a dog.
But Ghost of Dory gives me the shivers. Yes. Something about, yeah. Go some water. Anyways.
So, what are we doing in 2 weeks?
I have no idea. What are we doing in 2 weeks?
I believe.
Oh, is it Southampton?
I think it's Southampton.
It is.
On the 4th, we will be doing Southampton.
Yes. So, Southampton, UK.
Yes.
So, we're going to be going back to take put the city of Southampton under a microscope. So, yeah, looking forward to that one. And, yeah, then 2 weeks after that, we're
coming back to the States.
We're coming back to the States. We have not done a state episode in quite a while now, and we are going to go ahead and we're going to hit up the state of Maine, which is not the first time that we visited Maine. We actually did an entire episode on the Mount Desert Island, which is the area where Acadia National Park and Bar Harbor is. So we did.
We've covered a couple of other things. I think some hotels or restaurants that
periodically,
because we also, I think, covered a few things when we did Haunted New England.
Yeah.
But then after that, we're going to take a very long break because Chris and I are going to go on this trip where we've been covering all these ghost stories from lately. So we are not going to be in communication for a few weeks.
Well, I mean, we will, but we're not going to be doing this.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, if you stay tuned to our social media, we'll probably. The idea is that we might post a few little reels and stuff like that of
some TikToks.
Going to actually some of these places, getting some video and doing condensed versions of some of these stories.
Yeah.
So
we're going to take a 3-week break from the Facebook Lives, and we'll be back
in mid-September.
Mid-September. So the 15th we'll come back.
Don't spoil it yet.
I'm just saying that's when we'll be back.
That's the plan. But anyways, in the meantime, two episodes next month, Southampton and Maine.
Yes.
So, but thank you all so much for watching tonight. Glad that you could join us. And yeah, come on out, see us on a tour. Oh, the other thing I forgot. So we do have John Marshall on Friday.
Yes, but in August.
A week from Saturday, not this coming Saturday, but August 2nd, we are going to be at Warriors in Bloom.
At H-Croft Hall.
Yeah, H-Croft Hall. So we're going to be there vending alongside many of our other friends from the not medieval, Renaissance era. Yep. Yeah, so we are, of course, not really Renaissance per se, although storytelling in general is a long age-old tradition. Yeah. So there certainly was storytelling back in the Renaissance. But, we'll have some more stuff there. We'll be out there having some fun. You're probably going to actually don some of our Renaissance gear, which we don't get to wear very often. So if you want to see us all dressed up in Renaissance gear, you can come see us there. Again, that's Warriors in Bloom.
Yep, and tickets are for sale.
Oh, yeah. Tickets are for sale. I think Virago Alley is the hosting organization. They're adjacent to the Richmond Renaissance Festival, which is just starting to get some traction. They had a fundraising event earlier this year at Gallery 5
area. Yep. They actually shut down the neighborhood around Gallery 5 and had a red fair.
Yep, so that was just a one-day thing, but it was very well received. We unfortunately had a conflict that night and could not go ourselves, but it was a blast by all accounts. Mm-hmm. And now they're starting to gain momentum, and we got this Warriors in Bloom. So looking forward to that. And
so please come out and see us.
Yep. So that's what's going on over the next couple of weeks, and before we come back 2 weeks from today with the Haunted Southampton. Yep. And as always, please drop us a note anytime. Always. Perfect. Yes, Patrick, thank you for sharing that link. That is exactly it. And come on out, see us, and drop us a note anytime. If you can't come see us, we're always happy to hear from you. But thanks again for watching.
Yep.
And
we'll see you in 2 weeks, if not before.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.